Hey folks, this is John Miller, Executive Editor with WB News. We would like to welcome you to Ask the Experts, featuring John Halderman of Beacon Wealth Management. John is the founder, owner, and certified wealth strategist at Beacon Wealth Management. You can find out more at bwmwv.com. And now live from the studios of the Exponent Telegram in Clarksburg, West Virginia, let's Ask the Expert. Welcome to Ask the Expert with John Halderman of Beacon Wealth Management. John, you know, when we talk investment strategies and wealth management, people come at different stages in life. They could be in their 30s, their 40s, 60s, 70s. Yeah, there's got to be a different approach, right?
Oh, absolutely. You know, one of the biggest mistakes that people will say to me, hey, look, when I was working, I did it this way, and it worked. And so let's say they were working in the 90s, okay? They had time on their side. They were comfortable with risk. They didn't need income. So, of course, investing for growth and the fact that the markets were doing good worked great for them. But the reality of it is, now that you're in your 60s and you're saying to me, hey, look, I need an income every single month. I want to make sure I don't outlive that income. I want to reduce the tax burden on that. I also want to plan for my legacy. Well, guess what? Those are totally different objectives with totally different strategies. So what you did in your 40s worked for your 40s, but it definitely does not necessarily work for your 60s, 70s, or 80s.
A lot of factors, even age is one of them, but also, levels of income, what you're going to need, health expenses, different things can impact those things.
Oh, absolutely. I always say this. I am 53 years old. And so let's say I'm 10 to 12 years away from retirement. And all of a sudden, we have 2008. Between the 18-month between 2007 and spring of 2009, the markets dropped 56%. And so if you're in that situation, you have $1 million, and you're thinking, I'm going to use that as my income, and now that's only worth $440,000, well, that might change how your income looks. And so you've got to start thinking differently as you approach retirement. I call it the pre-retiree stage. You got to be thinking, okay, how much income am I going to need when I retire? And then how much should I be moving to an account that's now income driven? And when I say income driven, something that provides you the next 10 years of income with no to little risk, okay? We got to divide that portfolio into that. Now, don't get me wrong. We still have money that needs to grow, and we never want to not be able to take advantage of that. But we got to distinguish what is our growth money versus what is our income money. Now, as you get older, you mentioned to me you're in your 60s, John, and as you get in your 60s, now you need income. And that's a game changer, because think about this. The market goes down, okay, 50%. You took money out. That's what I call a double whammy. Because now you don't have time to recover that. And that's how people run out of money. It's not because of the market itself. It's really about the timing. You got in when the sequence was bad. You got in, they needed the markets went down, and you took money out. You didn't have recovery. And so what I tell people is you got to think differently when you're in that stage. And then, of course, someone that's progressing into their 70s or 80s, well, we know you could be incapacitated. We know you might end up in a nursing home. And you have family that you've worked hard for all your life. And you got to ask yourself, how do I get this money to my family in the most tax advantageous way? So your thought processes of how you divide this money has to now even be more elaborate, more strategic than just someone in their 30s or 40s who says, hey, I'm just going to build wealth for the long term. Because that's the easiest. I mean, let's face it. When you've got time on your side, and you're comfortable with risk, and your only objective is to build wealth, that's the easiest thing in the world when it comes to investing, compared to what I just talked about with the complexity of being a 70 or 80-year-old person.
In our past discussions, we talk about the buckets.
Yeah.
Okay. Explain to our audience here, when you sit down with somebody, what are the buckets we're going through?
Sure. First bucket, it doesn't matter what age you are. I believe you got to have an emergency fund. You got to have 6 months of liquid money. That I'm not trying to make a fortune on it. I want it to be liquid, and I want it to be safe. Okay, so that's my emergency fund bucket. If you are a person in the income stage, then you're going to need an income bucket so that you can pull from that portfolio. Because people don't realize this, is that the income you take from your investments are going to ultimately dictate your lifestyle. Then you've got to have a tactical bucket, or what I consider to be a tactical, where it's the next set of income. And so when I say tactical, that needs to be a risk managed bucket. The fourth bucket, that's where we go for it. That's our growth bucket. So if you're somebody younger, and you don't need income, or it's a portion of an older person's bucket, we still got to get growth. We still can't be afraid of innovation like technology, but we sure can't put everything in that bucket. And then a fifth bucket is going to be that legacy bucket, that wealth transfer bucket, that health planning type bucket. Because we all know that at the end of our lives, things don't always go smoothly. And if they don't, what we got to figure out is what's our contingencies. What type of contingency plan do we have to where we can still maintain our lifestyle, not let long-term care destroy us, and still pass on whatever we can to our families in the most tax advantageous way.
John, we've talked often about the need to individualize planning, okay, and being able to sit down with people. And you do a great job breaking that down. And that's exactly what people are going to hear when they sit down with you, but you're going to be looking at it not from a broad perspective. You're going to know their background. You're going to know what they're looking to gain, and you're going to help them find that pathway.
You know what? That is absolutely the key to success. It's not about the product. It's not about which product made the most money. It's not about things like that. It's about understanding exactly what someone is wanting to accomplish and developing the right strategy that's going to be fiduciary correct, okay, for that individual need. Because whether you're in that legacy planning stage, that income stage, that pre-retiree stage, or that accumulator stages, those are all totally different. And so you have to make sure that the strategy you have is unique to that individual time period of your life. And as your life evolves, you got to adjust. Because the one thing that I know is sometimes people say, yeah, when I first retired, or right before I retired, I did these things. Yes, 10 years ago. And I'm not saying that it's absolutely wrong, but you got to look because things change in your life. When you first retired, maybe you didn't have a grandchild that was living with you. But now all of a sudden, you've got some grandchildren that came back home and you're an encore parent. Maybe you didn't have a parent in a nursing home that you're having to take care of. Many boomers are sandwiched with that. And so you got to look as your life evolves, your strategy has to evolve with it.
When somebody comes to you and talks to you, I know we've talked about this before, but help the audience understand. This is not just like, oh, well, I'm going to sell you this, this, and this. I mean, you're sitting down with them, talking about the buckets, talking about their needs, and finding what works for them.
Absolutely. You know what? The biggest thing is we're not salespeople. And I'm not trying to pick on people who are salespeople, but when you work for a company, and they represent a product, you have a tendency to want to sell that particular product. In our situation, we work with lots of custodians. We work with the Vanguards, the Fidelities, the Pershings, the Schwabs, okay? So company names don't matter to us because we have affiliations with all of them. What does matter is your situation, that individual, because it's the difference between, and I always tell this story. My very first client came to me and they said, hey, look, we have a couple $100 a month, and we would like to take this and put it away for our child. And I said, wait a minute, why would you want to do that? And they said, well, we think we need for college. And I said, well, could I ask you a couple questions? I asked them a couple questions, and what I found out was they had several needs besides just college. Well, unfortunately, 6 months later, on Good Friday, I get a call, and it's from the family of the guy. And they said, you're not going to believe what happened. He was killed on the job today. And I thought, holy cow, here's a family at the time had a 3-month-old baby. They had a wife that was not working because she just had a baby and the husband was out there. They had asked me to put money into a college plan. And had I just been an order taker and said, yeah, I could do that, okay, then what they would have was just that college savings money left. But because I asked questions, because I got to understand the unique circumstances, we did other things. We made sure the family was protected. And the one thing that we hoped that would not happen did happen. But because we did planning for that unique circumstance, and that taught me a lesson, because that was the first year I was in business. And that's really what drove my passion, because I realized right then and there the impact that I was going to have on people. And if I didn't do my job the right way and I didn't take them as unique individuals, then I could impact them in a way that could be just totally devastating. And so you're absolutely right. Every single time is going to be a custom strategy for that unique individual.
John, I tell you, I'm always amazed again by the wealth of knowledge and your passion for what you do, and you bring that home so well. Again, this is John Halderman of Beacon Wealth Management. John, to wrap up, anything else? Or
you know what? As I always say, don't wait. The biggest mistake that people make is they have good intentions. And unfortunately, we can't do anything after the fact. Once you get put into a nursing home, there's nothing you can do. Once you become unhealthy, there's nothing you can do. Once you don't save in taxes, you make the wrong tax strategy, there's nothing you can do. And so I tell people, if it's on your mind, take the time to call us. We'll be glad to sit down with you and understand your situation.
Thanks for joining us on Ask the Expert with John Halderman of Beacon Wealth Management. Until the next time.